So, sir, how are you?
I'm very good. How are you?
Cheers.
Lovely to be here at the castle.
It's beautiful, isn't it? I mean, look at that.
Yeah.
I mean, give us a brief history of the castle, because you have been telling us.
Yeah. Well, it's pretty unique, this place, to be honest. I think there is certainly quite a lot of people in Halton that haven't been here, so if you haven't been, come.
Yes.
It is Grade 1 listed. Probably it's one of the two most important structures in the entire region. 13th century. It's been altered any number of times, but the views here are just unbelievable. So without going into it too much, I could probably talk about history for hours, but I'll stop right there. If you've not been here before, then come. The ruins, the views, the beers, the food is incredible. So
Yeah, and you've just been endorsing a Scotch egg or something before,
yes, if you've not been to the castle before, get the Scotch egg. They've just started doing Sunday roasts. So they opened just before lockdown, so couldn't have picked the worst time, but they're great guys here, so
yeah,
come in.
And thanks for hosting us as well, because they've probably seen us moving stuff around, and they're probably
Yeah,
alright with it.
yeah.
And you've got a bit of a bug on your ear there.
There is bugs and wasps everywhere, but we're kind of in nature. We're at the highest point in Holton here, so we can see everything, so even the bugs,
And
they're all
that was God, by the way, saying get on with it. So why are we meeting today?
Well, we've been chatting for a while about what's been going on, what's to be going on, all the advancements with this development. We've both got different reasons as to why we're here, but we've both
Why are
got the
you
same
here then?
goal.
Why are you here?
To be honest, I first started with the bridge. A lot of people know about Burrows Bridge and what was due to happen around it. During lockdown, I spent a lot of my time documenting all of Bridgewater Canal and all the bridges going from the old town all the way to Walton. So the Halton stretch, essentially. Burrows Bridge was part of that project, and as soon as I saw the development plans, I panicked because I was already aware that Burrows Bridge wasn't listed.
No.
Very well, hardly any of the bridges in Runcorn have been listed. So I panicked, and then I realised what was also due to be lost. And then we kind of went from there, ended up bumping into Stephen. Stephen has his own reasons. We all have our own reasons, but we could sort of come together. So started with Burrows Bridge for me, and then I realised that we opened a can of worms.
Yes, we did. I think we must have jumped on it at the same time then.
Yeah, simultaneous. It was obviously, this has been in the works. No one can claim that this is a new thing.
No,
We've all seen the posters or the white signs across Sandymore and up towards Norton for years, basically. But we've had no real concrete information. It's just been land that's owned by Homes England.
It's like when they went to the moon and they put the American flag on. It's no intention. It's just there, isn't it?
It's just there, showing that what's to come. But we haven't really known what's to come for so long. We've had no plans, and then they came, and then that was when I panicked. I saw Burrows Bridge was.
Yeah, you got another bug on your face there.
I'm a bug man. I'll be the fly soon. But yeah, Burrows Bridge looked like it was going to be replaced, and then I panicked, and I had to spend the whole day trying to submit reasons to Historic England to try and make sure that's still ongoing.
I was going to say, how's that going? Because I remember Mike Amesbury throwing his.
Yeah, so I've been told that Mike Amesbury and Andrew Dyer from the Labour and Green Party, both respectively, have sent their support for Burrows Bridge. So if anybody's wondering that there was a spike in interest about the bridge and then there's been some silence, it's just due to time.
As always.
When I submitted it, I did have an option. There was an option for me to pay £3,000 to get it fast-tracked. I didn't have that, weirdly enough, at that time to pay for that fast-track service.
Of course not.
However fast-track that would be in COVID, I'm not too sure. Everything takes longer. So I emailed Historic England last week just to check on what the status was, and they said that a representative from the Northwest Historic England team it's with them. So at some point they will come and analyse the bridge, and then go from there. I mean, what we have in our favour with Burrows Bridge is the fact that there are much less well-preserved bridges on the stretch that are listed. I'm not sure who listed them. It's all down to just some random Joe Blogs to submit these listing applications. It doesn't come from anybody higher up necessarily. They have lots of reasons.
It could be like local residents have went, oh, I love that bridge.
Yeah, I mean, George Gleaves Bridge, which is just where the Redrow site is, that is almost invisible from the ground. It's covered in ivy, you can't see it, you don't walk over it, nobody uses it, but it's listed. somebody listed that. Some beautiful fella at some point thought, I want to list that, and it worked. You've got Moor Village, which has got several.
So that sets the precedent, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, if they're
the rest.
listed, then Boroughbridge should be listed. You know, on the premise that they have listed.
Well, I really hope so. I mean, to me, the biggest problem, even if it is listed, is they're going to build next to it, which is another problem.
Well, funnily enough, when I sent that application, I was in a state of panic.
Yeah.
Majority of what I was talking about in the application was the risk. So you could choose different reasons as to why you were sending that application, and my reason was immediate risk, because it looked as though they were going to flatten it. Because if you go to Boroughbridge and Red Brow Lane, you can see the way that the road is laid out. It looks as though they could just go away with the old, in with the new.
Yeah. The easiest fit. I think if you or Kelly hadn't have really got the support up, I don't think that bridge would have lasted long enough.
This is the problem, because if it's not listed, the whole reason why listed processes exist was because after World War II, half of the historic buildings in the country were half blown up, and people wanted to just start anew, but they needed to make sure that they protect history. So
What's left of history, you mean? Yeah.
Well, those processes are in place to make sure that we don't just flatten everything without any good cause. So, you know, it's there. Unfortunately, it does take just a random person to do this.
But even taking the bridge out of context a minute, the fact that the road network supplying that bridge, whatever bridge form it takes, is not able to cope.
No, well, this is the thing. I mean, Red Brow Lane is a historic through pass. It goes through Gunny Hill, one of the most gorgeous spots in the entire region. You know, you go through there and you feel like you're in the 12th century almost.
Well, the one thing that I noticed is there was a guy who's been messaging me, and he said about there's a canal group, the people who narrow boat food, and they're like, they've only just heard about it, and last night they were going, what do we do about it? And they've been referred to me, and then I've referred them to the petition, and it's getting that support, isn't it?
It's all about networking, you know. It's about making sure that people know about this. I mean, when I first did it, I shared it to the Canals and River Trust. Unfortunately, it's not their canal, which is an issue, because Canals and River Trust are a very good organisation. It is owned by Peel. Peel. So, I mean, they own the Manchester Ship Canal, they own the Bridgewater Canal, so they play, whether or not they like it, whether or not we like it, they play a big part in Runcorn's waterways because they own them.
Are you a massive? Do you love the waterways of Runcorn? Is that a passion of yours?
I feel as though it's impossible to take any kind of interest in the heritage of this town and of this borough without acknowledging the waterways, because without the waterways, Runcorn's history wouldn't have existed at all.
So do you feel like I do, that the Halton Council in particular have not really seized that opportunity to make that a big selling point? They've just let it rot.
Well, I mean, this is the thing. I mean, I could talk for hours about the prospects of what the waterways provide. The old town, in my opinion, it's just got millions of pounds of funding, but what it needs to do is it needs to embrace the waterways. Every single time that Runcorn has flourished, every single time the economy here has boomed and we've built what we have, it's because we've depended on the waterways. So the old town needs to look back at the waterway and just imagine if restaurants and bars were all reflecting on the water at night. You know, none of them are.
I think what I said to Mike Ainsbury is that identity crisis of Runcorn that's always been split. We don't know whether we want to be a new town or an old town, and to me, if we need to fully embrace Runcorn as an identity, it needs to be in the old town. We're all, like you say, the waterways, and I've been supporting the Unlock Runcorn campaign.
To be honest, I mean, what those guys are doing is nothing short of incredible, and they've got a huge task ahead of them, but
they've done it for years, though. I've been supporting that since freaking college. And that's a decade ago more.
They're a small team, but they've got big ambitions, and what I like is the fact that they've been taken seriously. They've just been given, so we've had a 25 or 28 million pound grant that's to do with being part of the Liverpool City region. I know people may not always like being affiliated with Liverpool, but we are benefiting from that whether you like it or not. Unlock Runcorn has been given up to, it's not quite a quarter, I think it's about 5 million. They are going to be able to start their work. So if we reflect on how that's going to affect everybody in this town, at least along the north stretch, if you think about where the canal goes, boats are going to be coming to and through Norton. They're going to be coming through Castlefields, along Halton Road. There have been boats for many years still coming through, but they reach a dead end. So
there's
so
lack
now
of...
we'll be able. The prospect is we'll be able to go to Ellesmere Port, to Liverpool.
It's exciting, that, isn't it?
It is.
And plus, I like the fact that the locks, they stretch for so long, it becomes an attraction to come and look at. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean the 10 lock flight that historically, existed there at one point. It is an outdated system to replace. It would be way too costly, but also it would take too much time to use. So
yeah, it's a big one, isn't it?
It's a modern interpretation, but the boat lift that they are looking to build there is nothing short of groundbreaking. It would be the first of its kind in Europe, I've heard. It's
nice.
Because canals don't necessarily get that built anymore. You've got the Anderton boat lift, which is world famous just up the road, but that's an ancient monument. This would be a brand new thing, and people would come from far and wide just to go on it,
just to see the marvel that is new. Because again, a lot of the, like you just said, it's about historical reverence. This is new. This is exciting. This is fresh, and that's what Runcorn needs, isn't it?
It is, and to be honest, I think I very rarely in my lifetime have got as passionate about something as this. It seems to have sparked something.
Yeah.
Not upon just me, but you and many people, because this town has so much to offer, and I feel like it gets a bit of a bad rep. I feel like it's not represented enough. But we are at the castle right now, and when you look around you, 360 degrees, you can see the amount of legacy that this place has. It's had a bit of a bad time in recent years. It's not being represented in the right way by the right people. It's been let down a little bit.
Agree.
But through all of that, there is still an amazing community here, and they need to be.
Well, the thing was, what I was saying before about the trees covering what we've got. That's sort of symbolic of this town. It's like we've got so much to hear, but it's hidden.
Yeah. So this
You know what I mean?
this place that we're currently sat right now is. Is there any other town that has a Grade 1 listed castle at the top of it? Everybody should be able to look out their window and see this, but the trees...
This is my vision. Halton Council, take note. If we're to trim all these trees back a little bit, I mean, I don't like cutting trees down, but trim them back, light this thing up, it'd be a massive thing, because you come across the Mersey Gateway, you come across the Runcorn Bridge, you see it.
I hear a lot of people say when they come over that bridge, because thousands of people a day go over that bridge, they go, what's that up there? Or they see the sign for Halton Castle. It's not. It's a tricky one, this, because it is a pub, but it's also affiliated with the Priory. But there are very strict regulations as to what you can do here because it's Grade 1.
Yeah.
So it's like pros and cons, but it just goes to show what we have. And
be proud of what Runcorn's got and show it off to the world, because this is the problem. This town doesn't take responsibility for what it's got, and it doesn't take responsibility for what we're going to lose. And this is what we're doing right now, steering it back onto what we need to talk about, is that we're about to lose something so precious and no one bats an eyelid, it seems to me. And people, again, I'm getting more and more frustrated with people saying, oh, it's just going to happen, I'm not talking to you. And it feels to me that people are resigned to the fact that the council, whoever runs the council, is going to do what they want, and that's it. And when they can change it,
it's a strict system. But the problem is, it's a system that's in place nationally. So this isn't necessarily unique. If we go to the developments and start to talk about the development in general, this isn't a situation that's unique to Runcorn or to Halton or to Cheshire. Yeah, I mean, So because I've been taking interest in what's been going on when I was born, we go just over there to Warrington. That's all due to change. Again, it has been for a while, but now they have the information as to what's due to happen. They're all up in arms. They managed to overthrow somewhat the numbers there. So Fiddler's Ferry is due to go down, so they get to plop houses there. We don't have that. Western Point isn't going to disappear soon, so we can't build there. So the issue we've got is that Western Point, even though a lot of it's outdated, it's there to stay. Ineos have just built a huge headquarters there. That's there to stay. Warrington have got Fiddler's Ferry. They can flatten that soon, build loads of houses. We don't have that massive big chunk of brownfield.
We've got pockets of it, which is what Mike's referring to, like the shopping city or whatever. But for me, it's appropriate housing at appropriate times.
Yeah.
And we haven't fully regenerated the town from the past mistakes.
Well, that's what it comes down to. It should be about reflecting on mistakes. And when we went to the consultation in Sandymore, which was however many weeks ago, we tried to speak about correcting those mistakes. So the Liverpool Development Corporation that essentially changed this town forever, they used Runcorn as a way to solve Liverpool's crisis, housing crisis.
Yeah.
Post-industrial, they needed somewhere for people to live. They didn't have enough space in Liverpool, so Runcorn was a solution to that. Now we kind of need to stop and look at what we can change. So, but the issue for me is that it can be done. It's just a question of money.
What do you mean, by the council or by the...
Yeah, well, I mean, I always come back to this. So Castlefield's regeneration scheme, which is still ongoing, has effectively rebuilt, I would say, 90% of Castlefield. If you look at the aerial plan of Castlefield,
it looks a lot better, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Castlefields, it was an iconic, along with Southgate, it was an iconic place that was almost like a poster card for the new town.
Yeah.
And if you look at the old pictures, it used to be massive.
Yeah.
Like Castlefield, the rows in Castlefield, they were. If you could see them today, you would stand there and marvel at them. I think there's 2 or 3 left. Most of it's been rebuilt, but that proves in itself that you can undo some of the issues.
Yeah.
At its worst, Castlefields was not quite the slums, but it had an issue that needed
through mismanagement.
Repairing. Yeah, it was, and Southgate, even more so, was a failed project. But if Southgate existed today, that architecture exists nowhere else in the UK, it would probably be listed, it would be heralded as...
You said this to me, didn't you?
Yeah. Southgate, whether you like it or not, if that existed now, if it hadn't gone so downhill,
so quickly as well,
it would be used as an iconic place. Like, look what happened in the 70s, look what they built. These groundbreaking design, but it didn't go to plan, and it's gone. Now Castlefields has been mostly rebuilt.
Yeah.
And they've shown that they can rehouse people. A lot of it's social housing. They rehouse people, rebuilt, changed what they did.
The thing was, with this development that we're opposing, right? If that was mostly social housing, would you be happy?
I think if it was all social housing, that would be the best outcome for the current residents of Runcorn.
Yeah.
And this always comes down to the issue that we have. So,
yeah,
if we're to look at Halton's needs, so not just Runcorn, not just Widnes, everybody's needs in Halton, if you put them all into one bucket, mix them up and say, what does this bucket need? What does this collection of people need? They need somewhere they can afford, somewhere that they can move to without having to somehow just get amazing jobs that are out of their reach. The issue is that what they have been building in East Runcorn, the concept of East Runcorn is to draw in people who aren't currently living here. So the average Halton resident can't afford a 4-bedroom detached house
in the middle of Sandymore.
Yeah, they just can't. So, and I was speaking to somebody at the council about this at the consultation. I think there was only one chap there. He was quite overcome with people. But I was saying to him,
I remember.
if you could please explain to me the system that's in place, the hierarchy that's in place in Halton. If you to start, you grow up, whether it's in the new town, in the old town, anywhere in Runcorn. If you were to work up the hierarchy, you would start. So you're born, you go into a family, and then you want to get your own place, and then you move up. Is the idea that you would start in social housing, get a job, or go to education, get a job, and then get a better job, and then all of a sudden work your way east, and then all of a sudden end up in a 4-bedroom detached house? Is that the way that people's lives are supposed to work? And if so, where's the evidence that that's even a process? Because to me, I know people that have lived and worked here at ICI, the legacy that people leave in Runcorn and in Halton, they don't just upgrade their lives until they live.
Well, they have to move up the ladder, like you say. Become managers.
Yeah, but it's not, a system isn't in place for them to suddenly just end up in a big house at the end of their lives.
Well, this is the crux of the argument that we have, and it keeps getting tarnished with old NIMBY, because the problem is that it's a working class town that's being developed for middle class, upper class.
Yeah,
And it doesn't.
And this is the thing that the way, so we've got one little strip of land left. So Runcorn used to be grazing fields. I have pictures in my house of just here below this castle, looking up at the castle, and it's the farmers raking the fields.
My mum can contest to this. It's like rolling fields past Boston Avenue.
Yeah.
And then obviously Newtown came along with, and this is the thing. I'm not that bad with housing developments in per se, but they had a logic behind their planning when they got as far as the canal, where I live, and where you dropped me off. It's that area that sort of stops and goes, right, nature.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Floodplain.
Yeah, that's the thing. It kind of seems as though a plan was put in place with, if we're to look at Runcorn East, a plan was put in place for the type of housing, and if anything, if you reflect on the housing in Runcorn East, some of the canal side houses in Murdershaw and in Norton, there are some lovely little houses.
Yeah, there is.
Nice little houses, little bungalows for 1 or 2 people. Then there's houses for 3 or 4 people, like young families, little families, that people can afford. And then it stops at the canal. And the issue is that I feel as though that canal is almost, it's been like a breakaway between
it's been
concepts.
a barrier.
So Sandymore, I mean, I know people who live in Sandymore. I've got family members who live in Sandymore.
Yeah.
It's a lovely place to be. It's been abandoned somewhat in terms of facilities. It doesn't really have any shops.
It's slowly getting there, but it feels too late.
But again, we could talk about that for so long as well. The people
There's so much we could talk about, me and you.
Yeah, but they've only just started getting their facilities in Sandymore.
And it feels too small as it is, because it's going to be a co-op and a vet and.
Yeah, well, it was promised decades ago. You know, people moved there in the early 90s and they were promised schools and shops. They got one school. The primary school still doesn't exist, so you don't go.
Well, there's land. There's a land.
There is allocated land, but it doesn't exist.
Which I just learned.
So I mean, I know people that who live in Sandymore. They've gone to school in Warrington. They've gone to school in some places in Runcorn, even as far as Chester. More primary school than Daresby's primary school are tiny, and Daresby is just being built on now. So Sandymore isn't going to be able to rely on Daresby and Moore School for their children for much longer. So the concept of Sandymore in itself seems to have been flawed. Like I said, you can't get around that they're lovely houses. They are.
Especially the older ones.
Yeah, it's a suburban.
Got some character to it.
It's got a suburban feel to it. You know, there's nice detached houses, but that's the problem. It's almost all identical. There is the running joke that it's easy to get lost in Sandymore because everything looks exactly the same.
All beige.
But the issue is that they haven't varied the design of it enough. So they have essentially built the same type of house over and over and over and over. And what we need to try and stop here is them carrying on, because there's a block of land. And if they carry on building 3 or 4 bed detached houses, then it's a huge lost opportunity.
Yeah, definitely.
Because that's not what we need.
But the thing is, I am not opposed to housing, but the type of housing, it's not aimed at Runcorn or Halton. It's not aimed at affordability. It's not aimed at practicality. It's not even aligning with the national front for COP26. So all it's there for is to produce housing for people who are going to move it into the area, which are going to drain the resources that we've already got.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to the point where I was talking about the council representative at the consultation, who said that if we don't build housing in a certain bracket, so affordability, from personal experience, because I had to find an affordable house not too long ago, affordability stretches up to around about £180,000. That's supposed to be the affordability area.
Yeah.
In the current market. The affordable housing in Sandymore, which would be 3-bedroom semi-detached housing, has been around about 250, and of those there has been about a 20% allocation, which is what they are proposing to carry on in Sandymore Warford. So they would only build 20% of their houses in an affordable range that is above the affordable gap.
Yeah.
So they aren't affordable, they're just smaller.
Yeah.
So essentially, what they're doing is they want to build houses that Runcorn residents can't buy. And
Yeah,
when
we're blocked out of that.
Yeah, so it's of no use to us. So we're losing fields that are of no use to us. So
If the sacrifice is worth doing, then it's worth doing for the people of Halton, and not for the people.
We shouldn't give something away. You know, it's like giving something away and then not getting anything back that you can make use of.
Well, maybe the council gets council tax or whatever, but
the council gets to stop the pressure that's upon them to build houses. Every borough in the country that has the space.
But we don't have the space. The space that we've got is precious.
This is the problem.
And it's
so
not given away lightly.
My theory is that for as long as Halton has green space, in any way, shape or form, as long as we have some fields, there will be a government in place that tells us that we need to build on that because we have a housing crisis.
Which can be solved elsewhere.
My theory is that if Halton Council can end up giving those fields away through Homes England, through this partnership with Homes England, if they can end up giving those fields away, if they are all gone, then they can finally just sit down and say, right, we won't hear from them again because we have no more space.
Well, it's typical passing the buck. I was saying this to you before about the UK nationality is like passing the buck. It's like, what's this going to cost? Or leave it till later.
Yeah.
What about now? You know what I mean? It seems like the voters always vote a certain way and want something, but then the people in charge are so out of touch with that idea of local accountability.
Well, I've always said this. It's frustrating in a way that you can't guarantee that people working in your local council are representing you from a local perspective.
Yeah, the local borough who wants a certain thing, they always seem to go back and go, well, my opinion is you don't, you know.
Well, a lot of people who work at the council, and you can't change this because you can't have that rule in place, but a lot of people who work at the council, they don't live in Halton. I mean, I've spoken to a lot of people in recent months from the council about bridges, about listings, about developments, about rules and regulations, and I hear every accent under the sun. You know, I hear Lancashire accents, Wigan accents, all sorts, and then it becomes clear to me that they don't live necessarily in Runcorn, so they're not going to think I want to protect where I live.
Well, they've got no
They just want to do their job, so we can't.
This is why I always say accountability. You brought up the Liverpool City region before. I think we shouldn't be a part of something that's too big. I think we should localise it to a certain level where we can look them in the eye and say, what are you doing? And that's what's lost when you branch out.
It's the never-ending debate, really, isn't it? Because, like I said before, we go back to the original story that I was saying about the investment that we're getting through Liverpool City region to revitalise the town. We wouldn't be getting that if we weren't part of Liverpool City region. But a lot of the mistakes and the issues that we've had in Runcorn are because we've been affiliated with Liverpool. We lost half of the town before where I was born, before you were born. We lost half of the town in order to benefit Liverpool. It's a long-standing.
But the thing is, if we weren't paying into it, because there's a I don't know, you can correct me, but we pay into the system of Liverpool City region to get something out of it. So it's like a back
part
and
of
forth.
our council tax goes to Liverpool.
So logically, if we were part of a different set of values, like a Cheshire region or something different that's more localised, wouldn't it be the same issue? I don't know.
Yeah, it is extremely complicated, and this is the thing because like it or not, Runcorn doesn't have a thriving central economy, and I've always thought this about. I always personally think that Runcorn and Widnes needs to tie together a little bit more. There is a divide between the water.
Well, people always assume that it's that thing of Widnes gets everything, which is true, but at the same time, we need to galvanise our mechanism of support.
Yeah. This is something that because there are long-standing opinions in Runcorn, because we used to be different from Widnes to Runcorn. There used to be, county boundaries at the end of the day, Lancashire and Cheshire. I personally think that the concept of Halton needs to be embraced a little bit more. I think if Widnes has something, Halton has something. If Runcorn has something, if we have the Brindley, Widnes has got a theatre.
Well, this is what I remember when we got the Brindley, and it was like, wow, we've got a theatre.
Yeah,
I know, and people can come over here, and the same with the cinema. It's a shared.
But Widnes wouldn't necessarily look upon it as being, we've got a theatre. They think Runcorn's got a theatre, but I think that's a flawed outlook.
Don't we? Yeah.
Everything has got.
I'd rather Halton than Liverpool City region. Do you get me?
Yeah, but
because
then
it's more accountability.
Then it's Halton is a district of Liverpool City region, so it's almost as if one can't exist without the other.
Yeah.
And it's all, at the end of the day, it's long-standing traditions, opinions. But at the end of the day, what we need to really concentrate on is protecting what's left.
Yeah, this is exactly my point. And I believe that the people who allowed this development to get so far without asking us, and without putting it to a vote or whatever they do, who now turn around and say you can't stop it, tough shit, basically, they need to be kicked out. That's my opinion now, because I think we've voted the same way for too long. I think Holton Council have gotten too comfortable.
Well, that's it. I mean, it's good to see. I know you've been involved with it with the Green Party. Andrew,
well,
if Andrew's watching this, or if Andrew hears about this, I honestly have to say that hats off to you for doing the work that you've done.
Thank you.
Green Party is not something that's been involved in Halton. Traditionally it's always been Labour.
Well, and that's Sandymore again. Sandymore has elected someone as a councillor who's a Green Party because they're so fed up of what they're losing. And this is what we need to do. We're in Halton Castle now, and this ward is contesting a by-election now for Ian Ferguson.
Yeah.
So it's after we're here, really.
Well, that's it. I mean, Andrew, he's got work on his plate with the area that he's been given, because Moore also, with it being in a unique place, Moore is worried about what it stands to lose because it's got Warrington is expanding rapidly.
Yeah, they're going that way. Halton's going
Moore
that way.
is in the middle of two expanding or potentially expanding towns. So I think a lot of, personally, if I was to look at Andrew's position, a lot of it would be down to Moore centrally in Daresbury, because Daresbury's being built on, Moore doesn't want to be built on. Yeah,
Daresbury we can't stop, of course, because it's Red Row, isn't it?
West Daresbury is essentially lost, and it's a shame. But
because you can see that from my house, and it's
Don't get me started on Red Row.
No.
Because if I talk about Red Row, I will not stop.
Well, I'm going to stop the interviewing right now. But what I want to ask you, one final question: if you could stop this development, if you had one goal in mind, whether we stop it or not, what would it be? What do you want? What's the outcome? The best outcome for you?
The best outcome would be to realise that Runcorn without fields is not Runcorn. The image of Runcorn without fields, it isn't Runcorn at all.
Yeah.
If you take away our fields, if you take away the gap between us and Daresbury, it's the last little bracket left. If you take that away, I'm not really sure what the identity of this town is. Yeah, a fake lake. But I mean, it comes down to, again, the concept of building these houses is for, in their mind, the guy at the council said that if we build employment districts in Daresbury Park and Daresbury Labs, if the people there on higher wages don't have big houses to buy, they're not going to want to live in Runcorn.
Well, don't live in Runcorn then.
Well, let us sort out our issues with our current housing crisis first, and then look at that. Then it has to be solving before adapting.
Well, what was it? Halton's the most deprived, one of the most deprived areas of UK or whatever.
Yeah,
I don't know the full facts on that. I know someone told me.
There's a lot of dependent people here. There are a lot of people who are depending on a system to provide for them. We have an opportunity here. If we have to lose this land, if we don't want to, if we have to lose this land for something, anything at all, it has to be to better the people's lives that currently exist here.
Yeah, I agree.
People who live elsewhere who might want to move in, that's a secondary priority. We have to look after the people who live here, who want houses, young families. So
and it's got to be done on the right terms as well. You can't just plan this without the consultation. You can't just say, oh, we're going to build houses here, and then go, well, how are you going to access it with roads? Oh, we haven't planned that yet.
No.
What's the point in that?
2 points to just finish on. 20% allocation of affordable housing, which isn't affordable anyway, is of no benefit to anyone.
I like that.
And roads that can't cope with current vehicles at peak times definitely can't cope with another 1,800 cars at 9 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock at night. That's just common sense.
It is. Well, they don't do common sense. I did a pro and con. I asked him that, and he went, "What?"
The pro and cons. Was it mostly cons by any chance?
Well, I said to him, "Well, if you do pro and cons, because 10-year-olds do that, pro and con of what you like and don't like about something. If it comes con, then you don't do it. And he went, "What do you mean?" Says,
this is the problem. The only thing that they concentrate on is the pros being, we get to build houses that we have to build.
Build houses. We, Homes, England, build houses.
House building robots.
We do must. Anyway, thank you so much for the answers. Thank you so much. And
cheers.
And sign a petition. Follow the Green Party. Vote Ian Ferguson into this ward here, and we can make a change. See you later.